VATSIM is the official partner for online air traffic simulation in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. Announced only a few weeks prior to release, VATSIM's partnership with MSFS is new, but the program is not. It's an immersive, free-to-access network that aims to provide quality air traffic control free of charge. Many new simmers like the idea of this, but have no idea how to get integrated, and they're often intimidated. All you need is a simulator, an internet connection, the VATSIM client, a VATSIM account, a headset, and a willingness to learn the basics. Stick around, and we'll talk about how to fly VFR on VATSIM.
250 knots, copy the altimeter, United 413.
Welcome to another tutorial. Today I'm going to talk about using VATSIM. Right here you're looking at the VATSIM homepage, vatsim.net. You're going to have links below to a few important documents or pages. First is the About page. You can read about what VATSIM is. And then there's going to be useful documents, getting your feet wet in the VATSIM atmosphere. The VATSIM network, rather. And then getting started. The main page you're going to want to go to is this checklist here that shows you how to get started, get your account going. And then over here in the resources, the programs, the approved pilot clients for VATSIM. Vpilot's going to be the standard for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, FSX, Prepared, etc. And Vpilot's most likely what those of you watching this video are going to download because you're probably flying MSFS 2020. The next thing I want to show you is the tool to use if you want to see who is online. Just go to About, Online, and this will show you the controllers that are online. You just look at the IKO and stuff. See who's online. This is a useful tool if you really want to fly where air traffic controllers are online. And the way that this works is it's top down, so if there's a center controller and nobody else, he's controlling every airport from the ground up in that area. The top-down method kind of gives the most coverage, bang for your buck, I guess, since it is kind of it's a free service and it's all volunteer-based. So in this example, you see Seattle Center's online, but there's nobody staffing Seattle. So Seattle Center controller is controlling Seattle ground, tower, and everything in Seattle Center airspace that isn't covered by somebody else. Another neat little tool is going to be this Who's Online, this flight-aware inspired tracker, if it ever loads. And it's a global map showing who's online. Now, right now, it's 2 o'clock, 19 Zulu. That's like 7 or 8 p.m. in West Europe. So obviously, most of the traffic is in Europe right now. But I'm going to fly in America. And the most of the traffic in America right now is in the northeastern sector. So we'll probably do some flying near Boston. That's not Boston. That's New York. There's an event going on at Louisville. A lot of UPS traffic there. A lot of people flying in and out of there. The events you can find by going to VATUSA.net and checking out their schedule. But we're going to fly in the Bradley area because they have a couple of guys online. We'll do a flight in that area. Now, something that's not mandatory but very helpful is having some sort of charts subscription. I'm a real-world pilot, so I use ForeFlight, and this is ForeFlight that you're seeing here. But you can see the Charlie airspace surrounding Bradley, which is where I'm going to be flying. Which, if you're flying on VATSIM, you're going to need air traffic control clearance. You're going to need two-way communication to fly through that if you're VFR. And you're also going to want taxi diagrams so that you know where you're at, know where you're going, because air traffic control is going to give you taxi instructions, and you're going to have to follow that. ForeFlight's a great way to get this. Another option is going to be Navigraph charts. If you don't want to pay, you can get a lot of taxi diagrams for free on AirNav. But for VFR sectionals, you might be able to find some free ones online. But it's really helpful to have charts that show your current location, like ForeFlight and Navigraph do. Speaking of Navigraph, this is the kind of go-to flight sim only charts and stuff like that. I just don't know if they have VFR charts. I know most of their stuff is IFR focused, but they're relatively inexpensive, and it's a really great tool. So I would look into this if you're new to this. So once you've got Vpilot installed, you just need to execute it. I run it in admin mode to avoid any focus issues. And this is what it'll look like, except for the Mode C light up there. You'll want to go to Settings and Sign In and configure your push-to-talk button and stuff like that. And then the only thing you're going to do is run the sim, and you'll click Connect once you get on the tarmac. All right, so we're loaded up here at Bradley International, and there's no traffic, human or AI. And the reason for that is because we're not connected to the network. So we're going to pull up the client. We're going to click Connect. We're going to fill out our call sign and aircraft type. Call sign for today is going to be November 358 Tango Whiskey. And if you're flying the Cessna 172, your aircraft code is going to be C172. There is a list. I'll leave a link in the description to figure out what your aircraft type is if you don't know already. Once we hit connect, this is what it should look like. On the left there is going to be active controllers in the area. So we've got Bradley ATIS. Oh, man. And we have a massive jet that has spawned beside us. There it is. So that's a model matching error. It's probably a Learjet or something that the game assigned as a big Airbus Boeing hybrid looking thing. Okay, so if you're wondering why there's no air traffic control on the radios right now, it's because our aircraft is turned off. So I'm going to get the aircraft up and running here. I suggest you do the same. And we'll link back up when we got power restored and the comms ready to set. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is set our radios. We've got the engine running, and if you look at the radios, COM 1 and COM 2 are both set to 124.85, and that blue color there shows which one is active. So COM 1 is active, and the frequency that's active is 124.85. So the next thing we need to do is get ATIS, ground, and approach and center in. Since there is no tower controller, we're going to put ATIS and ground in COM 2, which is the bottom down here. So the first thing we'll put in is Bradley KBDL ATIS 118.150. And the big knobs will move the big numbers, and then the small numbers you move with the small knob. So we're going to put 118.150 for ATIS in the standby, and then we're going to activate it by hitting this button right here. Now 118.15 is in the top, but we don't hear anything, and the reason for that is because we're still tuned to listen and transmit on COM 1. Next, we're going to put ground in COM 2's standby. That way, when it's time to go from ATIS to ground, we could just hit the swap button and we won't have to do any other changes. After ground, we could probably expect Boston Approach. I don't think we're in Boston Approach's airspace, but we'll just go ahead and put Boston Approach in the standby for COM 1. Boston Approach being 133.0. And then we'll put Boston Center 134.70 in the standby for COM 1. Again, we do this on the ground to reduce task saturation. When we're flying, all we'll have to do is hit a couple buttons and we'll be tuned in rather than mess with the dials while trying to fly departure. Now you might think you're ready to go, but not quite. We still need some weather information. We're going to tune ATIS to get that. The other thing we need to do is change our nav profile to GPS. That way it flies our GPS flight plan that we have preloaded. And now we're going to go ahead and get the weather information from ATIS. And to do that, we're just going to switch our transmitter and our receiver, to COM 2. ATIS is already in the active. That's loud. Switch to COM 2 and get the ATIS.
Visibility 10.
So visibility is 10 miles.
6,000 scattered.
Got scattered clouds at 6,000.
Temperature 25.
25 degrees Celsius. Temperature 2.6 degrees Celsius.
3013.
Altimeter 3013. We're going to set that in the Closman window.
Expect ILS approach. North is to airmen. Read back, I'll hold short instructions and assigned altitude.
And then the rest of the information here is more for, well, really everybody.
Information delta.
And information delta is just what we're going to confirm. You know, when you contact the ATC for the first time, you're going to say, we have information delta to let them know that we have the appropriate information on board. All right, so now we're going to hit this swap button, and now we're tuned to 121.9. Turn off the receiver for COM 1, although I don't think it does anything in the game. We're still on COM 2 for transmit, and we're now tuned to ground because we hit the swap button. So 121.9 is now in the active. We're now tuned to ground, and we can talk to ground when we're ready for taxi. But now this is the moment I want to take to talk about how we talk to ATC in general. It's usually going to be who you are, where you are, so who you are, where you are, and where you're going, what you need. So it's very simple. Who you are, where you're going, who you are, where you're at, and where you're going. So who are we? Well, we're Skyhawk 358 Tango Whiskey. We're at the west ramp, or signature ramp, and we want to go to 3 Bravo 0 with flight following. So that's what our first radio call is going to be. It's going to be something like Bradley ground, Skyhawk 358 Tango Whiskey with information delta at the west ramp. Request taxi for a VFR departure to 3 Bravo 0. Alright, so with that out of the way, we'll make our first radio call. Bradley ground, Skyhawk 358 Tango Whiskey at the main ramp with information delta. Request taxi for VFR departure to 3 Bravo 0 with flight following. And usually it might take them a moment or two to respond because they're going to pull up your route and stuff.
November 358 Tango Whiskey Bradley ground, good afternoon. Stand by, I'll get your clearance and get right back to you.
All right, so with us being in Charlie airspace, there is a lot of traffic consideration to make. Probably going to be given a initial heading as well as altitude restriction. So you're going to want some sort of paper, pen, or notepad to write on any instructions that they give you.
November 358 Tango Whiskey, did you have a requested VFR cruise altitude?
We'll take 3,500 for a Tango Whiskey.
November 358 Tango Whiskey on departure flight runway heading, maintained VFR at or below 2,500. Departure frequency 134.7 and squawk 7310.
Maintain runway heading, maintain VFR at or below 2,500, 134.7 for departure frequency, and squawk 7130 for a Tango Whiskey.
8 Tango Whiskey, readback is correct, squawk mode Charlie, advise ready to taxi, expect runway 33 for departure.
Okay, so we can expect runway 33. I'm going to set my transponder here, 7130. Looks like I typed 7120, so I'm going to correct that. 7130. Okay, so with our frequency set, we've been told 134.7 for departure, so that's going to be center. So once we get to the runway, he's going to hand us off to center on 134.7, and we'll be with him pretty much through the entirety of the flight. Now we're at the west ramp, and we've been told to expect runway 33, so we can actually kind of game plan how our taxi instruction is going to be. We'll probably be given Alpha to Juliet, and then Juliet from Sierra, then we'll cross runway 24 on Sierra, following Sierra all the way to the end of runway 33. So having this in our heads ahead of time will make our readback of our taxi instructions a lot more easy, as well as keeping ourselves aware of where we're at on the airport. Now that we're all set, we'll go ahead and call for taxi. Bradley Ground, Skyhawk 358 Tango Whiskey, request taxi.
Skyhawk 8 Tango Whiskey, runway 33, taxi via Alpha, Juliet, Sierra, hold short, runway 24.
33 via Alpha Juliet Sierra, hold short runway 24, 8 Tango Whiskey. Okay, we're cleared to taxi to 33, but as you heard, we're told to hold short runway 24 because it is an active runway, it's being used, so we're going to hold short runway 24 and then we'll be cleared to cross runway 24. Just one note, runways in this game are accurately named, but taxiways are not at most airports, so you're going to want to continuously compare your Navigraph or AirNav chart to what you're seeing in the flight sim so that you're at the right area. Alright, now that we're ready to go here, we'll add some power, taxi around this tight little fit here, and once again, you're going to want to constantly refer to your taxi chart and your sim just so you know that you're on the right taxiway, because again, most of the default airports do not have appropriately named taxiways. I'm going to catch you guys as we hold short of runway 24.
Skyhawk 8 Tango Whiskey, cross runway 24 on Sierra.
Cross 24 on Sierra for Skyhawk 358 Tango Whiskey. Okay, we've been cleared to cross 24 at Sierra, so we're turning right onto Sierra here. I'll slow down just a little bit. We're entering an active runway, so strobes and landing lights come on, and we're going to check to make sure that nobody's departing or landing, so we'll scan right. Nobody taking off or landing. We'll scan left. Nobody taking off or landing. And get back over here on the left, so crossing the runway. And then as we leave the active runway, we'll turn our landing lights and strobes off once again.
Skyhawk 8 Tango Whiskey, contact Boston Center for departure 134.7. Have a good flight.
Departure 134.7 for 8 Tango Whiskey, and you have a good one.
You too.
Okay, we're going to tune into 134.7, which is going to be Boston Center. Going to taxi here to the hold short, and remember that we're vectored for runway heading, so when we climb out off the runway, we're going to be on runway heading and at or below 2,500.
Sky 358 Tango Whiskey, Boston Center, hello, runway 33, clear for takeoff.
33 clear for takeoff, Sky 358 Tango Whiskey.
American 9.
Okay, runway lights, landing lights and strobes come on. We'll taxi onto the center line, flaps are up, mixture needs to be full rich. And, oops, yep, switched radios there, got back on comm 1.
2,500 on 46.
Okay, runway 33 is on the numbers, check that we're altitude reporting on, mode C, mixture full mix, or full rich, and we are on the correct runway, full power.
Boston,
We'll maintain
CBM 816
center line.
Mike, field in sight, Wyndham, cancel IFR.
Engine instruments are in the
TMA
green.
16 Tango Mike Bus.
Vax in the green. Airspeed's alive.
Squawk VFR, frequency change approved. Have a nice day.
Squawk VFR, change to advisory. We'll see you. Thank you.
Falcon 6
Maintaining center line. Gonna rotate at 55 knots.
4,500, and we have the field in sight. 6 Sierra.
Falcon 6 Victor Sierra, clear vision approach 1833.
Build our airspeed a little bit. And we're gonna climb out at 74 knots. Gonna climb out at 74 knots. Gonna maintain runway heading.
Look up for the field on board.
And remain at or below 2,500.
Gecko 23, descend via the J Fund to arrival. Runway 27, Boston, altimeter 3011.
Okay, we're descend via the J Fund 2 for Gecko 23, expecting 27, 3011 on the altimeter.
Envoy 4627, we got the field in sight.
Envoy 4627, clear visual approach runway 24.
Clear visual 24 on Envoy 4627.
Falcon 6 Victor Sierra, number 2, flying banana over the numbers, wind 01010, runway 33, clear to land.
Clear to land 33, following the banana. 6 Sierra.
Number 358 Tango Whiskey, radar contact, say altitude.
Passing 700 feet for a Tango Whiskey.
Number 358 Tango Whiskey, thanks, turn right heading 360 and VFR altitude, your discretion.
Right, 360, altitude at our discretion, a Tango Whiskey. All right, so we're no longer bound to the runway heading. We can now turn right to 360. We're still bound to the right heading of 360, so we have to fly a heading of 360, but we can climb as high as we want at this point. You can expect in a busy airspace such as a Charlie or a Bravo airspace to be vectored for a short time, but we're VFR, all right? We're going to be operating on visual flight rules. We're just getting short-term vectors for traffic.
November 13 Echo.
November 358 Tango Whiskey, proceed on course.
Proceed on course, a Tango Whiskey. All right, so we're now proceed on course. We're not bound by any altitude or heading restrictions. We can now fly the way we want to fly. So we're going to cruise at about 3,500 feet since we're going east. Any east headings need to be odd 1,000 plus 500 feet VFR. And if you're going west, it's going to be even 1,000 plus 500. So we'll level out for about 3,500 here in a bit. And we're going to proceed on course by turning right on course and flying the pre-planned GPS route.
2875, descend via the Roebuck 3 or
If you made it this far, you're en route now. You're on your own. Navigation's on your own, so not much interaction with ATC to this point.
358 Tango Whiskey, radar says terminate, squawk VFR, frequency change approved. Have a nice day.
Okay, squawk VFR and frequency change approved for a Tango Whiskey.
Number 13 Echo, climb and maintain 11,000.
Okay, so we're going to squawk VFR, that's 1200, and then we're going to change frequency to Unicom, which on VATSIM is 122.8. So I'm going to go to the COM1 standby and change that to 122.8 and then put that in the active.
Center 7270 to clear 29 at Delta, short of 33. Like the text back 29 at Bravo.
Okay, so now that we're on Unicom, you're not going to hear anybody talking unless you're flying near a popular airport with other people on Unicom. So Unicom at this point is like flying offline for the most part. We'll make traffic callouts at the airport, but for the purposes of this tutorial, that was how to fly VFR on VATSIM. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like and subscribe button. If you have any questions, leave a comment below and I'll be sure to answer. One thing to keep in mind is we went over a very limited sample. It's just departing from a Class Charlie airspace. This is just the basics, right? How to talk to ATC and get off the ground on VATSIM. If you're flying through a very jet-heavy area like a Bravo airspace, it's going to be a lot more controlled. They're going to be vectoring you around and they might give you some stuff that you might not be comfortable with. So I would start with small airports and small aircraft that you really know, and then build up from there. If you want a tutorial on IFR operations, there's a lot of videos out there for that. Just know that it's a lot more complex than VFR. For the rest of this video, I'm not going to show you the return journey back, but I will jump ahead in the flight just to give you an example of how you would request flight following out when you're already in the air, departing 3 Bravo 0. Okay, so now that we've departed 3 Bravo 0 and we're approaching the airspace for Bradley, we'll contact Boston Center. Boston Center Sky 358 Tango Whiskey out of 3 Bravo 0, passing 3,500 for 4,500. Request flight following back to Bradley.
Number 358 Tango Whiskey, Boston Center, squawk 4723.
4723 for a Tango Whiskey. All right then, now that you've been given a new squawk code and acknowledged by ATC, you're now under flight following back to Bradley International once again. For the approach will be the same as departure, just in reverse. You're going to fly visual flight rules and eventually be cleared into the Charlie airspace, which, depending on the weather present, you'll either be given a straight-in approach or be given a left base or right base approach for one of the runways. It's really just going to depend on the airport, the winds, and traffic levels. So For this tutorial, that's going to be it. VFR flight on VATSIM is usually pretty simple. I would definitely start off by flying out of smaller airports and using planes that you're more familiar with. And never be afraid to ask questions. And I hope to see you guys out there on the VATSIM network. So if you have any questions, leave a comment below. And be sure to hit the like and subscribe button if you enjoyed this video.
Sorry,
Later.
Tractor 524 Mike Golf.
There you go.